What is up, everyone? Max Lin here, and welcome to episode number 7 of Themindhere. In this series, I update everyone on my projects for this channel, discussing the process and work that goes into my music and talk about other subjects that come to mind, which is where the name of this series comes from. If you'd like to see how I've been making these transcriptions, feel free to take a look at the previous episodes. For those of you who are new to my channel, welcome to the community. Right now, I am working on releasing piano transcriptions on a quarterly basis and these videos bi-weekly. If you're enjoying my content and want to see more, please consider subscribing. So for this work session, I continued my work on transcribing the accompaniment for this song. This part of the transcription process is typically what takes the longest, with the second most being the harmonizing portion. At this moment, with my current music theory level and composing experience, it's probably because I am the weakest in this section. For those who aren't familiar with music theory, songs are typically composed of a melody and an accompaniment, especially pop songs. The melody is the dominant part that gets stuck in our heads, which of course makes it quite easy to transcribe initially. I say initially because you can embellish the crap out of it if you desire, in which case it will be a bit more difficult. And because the melody is prominent, it's relatively easy to hear if you write it wrong. The accompaniment, on the other hand, functions as a support for the melody and sets the overall mood of the piece. It is much harder to hear an error in the accompaniment, partially because it is usually lower pitched than the melody and so less clear. The other issue is that it can be subjective whether the accompaniment sounds right. What drives the accompaniment writing should be the goal mood, which depends more on the transcriber or composer, I'd say, than the melody. This makes the accompaniment, in my opinion, a blessing and a curse, and much more artistic. If I'm not good at it, there are some telltale signs that I can't simply claim artistic licensing, but to some degree there is no right or wrong. Because I'm stronger working with things that have a convergent answer, it takes a while for me to decide what is best for my piece. With that being said, there are also some personal stuff that might have slowed the progress, which I'll discuss later in this video, but I still made progress nonetheless. Starting with the first portion of this song that spans about a page, I listened to what I had down so far. I wanted this section to be more powerful, more complex later on, like a cloud from the distance floating closer. So each repeat of that 8-measure melodic phrase had a more intricate bass. A phrase is just a musical term, a musical pattern, and in this case, it's in the melody. I made sure to consistently cross-reference the original song to make sure that it sounded similar, but in a way that I wanted. The next section took me quite a bit of time to write. Now, I've already explained that accompaniment writing is not my strong suit, but another factor that stretches the schedule is the time it takes for me to accurately judge the bass that I've written. I know, this sounds weird, but let me explain. When I write the bass, I've already listened to the local melody in my piece and the original song a dozen times. The final notes I write down have been played on the piano several times as well, so I've been thoroughly saturated with the tune. I need to let my brain rest a bit before going back to working on the piece with a fresh perspective, and some time for my brain to unconsciously think things through. Because I do these transcriptions myself, the next best thing to having someone else listen to my work is to listen to it myself after a couple of days. Anyways, I know I wanted the rhythm of this section to be more consistent, which meant a lot more eighth notes, but I wasn't sure how I wanted to arrange them. That took some experimenting before I found an arrangement that worked. Thankfully, after I finished this second section, I could apply it again to where this part repeated with only slight adjustments. Writing the bass is quite an exponential process because once I have the first part down satisfactorily, I have a template for the rest to follow. So I was able to blaze out another page and a half of accompaniment concluding this work session. Now, during this span of 2 weeks, I thought a bit about what I talked about last video, which was the possible use of FL Studio and Utau for future videos. I tried to learn these two in parallel, but I quickly found that this didn't work. Why? Well, to start off, Utau is a voice synthesizer. This means that there are synthesizing elements, which of course FL Studio has since it's a full-out digital audio workstation, or DAW. So after some frustrating attempts to learn Utau, I thought it would be best to start off with FL Studio and work my way towards Utau. That way I can apply a lot of the knowledge I've learned from FL to Utau and hopefully learn it more efficiently. I found this process interesting because in a way it was an exercise of purpose. I mean, my goal was to learn these two so I can end up producing better music, possibly composing my own electronic variants and making my own Vocaloid songs. I want to master both really badly, but seeing as I had experience in neither and that Utau was pretty much built off of FL in some ways, it only made sense for me to focus on one program and learn that. So that's where I am right now. I'm learning the basics of FL first. On the topic of focusing on one thing though, something happened to me that I didn't realize until I was well into it during the holiday break, and that was burnout. I've probably had this happen before to some extent, but this one to me was more vivid. During the break, I had plenty of time to spend on all sorts of projects, so that's what I did. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that pursuing so many ambitions all at once wasn't exactly sustainable. For me, I had so much going on that I might as well have been at school through the holiday break. I don't believe I gave myself proper rest until I realized what was going on. The other issue I realized afterward was that spreading my effort among so many projects meant I couldn't dedicate enough quality time to any of them to take them anywhere. Another case of when multitasking doesn't work, at least for me. What made me realize I was burned out was halfway through the day, I didn't feel like doing anything. My motivation felt oddly lacking, and it didn't come back for the rest of that day. It felt pretty terrible, since I depend on that motivational energy to get anything done. In any case, after I slept on the issue, I woke up with a better understanding of what had occurred. I will now take these projects one at a time to make sure I get quality over quantity. So, the moral of the story, sleep is important, kids. Anyways, enough of this rant. Let me show you what I have for my current transcription so far. Thank you to everyone who made it to the end of this video. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to let me know in the comments section down below. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video.